Yo, what's up, everybody? It's DFS Dudes back with my boy Detroit Beastie. We're here to do another edition of of the NHL Morning Skate. It's a big slate of games today to get into. Last night, our cash line 169.7, I think it scored.
Correct. Yeah.
That was and that was for free. It was in the Hot Hooking Stacks article. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure you check that out. I want to say that you're probably about 90% over the last month with cash lines in cash games on FanDuel and Draftkings. So take advantage of that while it's free. Membership special right now that's also up. Use checkout. Use promo code MLB50. Take 50% off of your first month. Get full access to the site for all sports. NBA, NHL, MLB coming up. NASCAR this weekend. PGA just locked. There's a ton of them. There are a ton of them. And before we get into the video, if you haven't done so already, make sure you click the subscribe button below and enable notifications so you don't miss any of the videos we do live for all of the sports. Without further ado, what is up, my man?
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'd like to think that 10% that I haven't been good at was all last weekend. We had 2 duds in a row, so we're moving at a pretty good clip. So I can't complain.
And I would say this, that not only were they were duds, but they weren't that's DFS, right? Like, we can do the research, and I think yesterday you said we're making educated guesses, and I was like, maybe not. We do a lot of research. And we make informed decisions based off the research. Plus, there's a lot of different strategy that goes into it as well. Yeah. But at the end of the day, players have to go play. And that's process, if you stick to the process, you're going to land on the correct plays. And you can have days where the play is correct,
but it just doesn't pan out.
The San Jose Sharks put up 5 goals on Pittsburgh when that just shouldn't happen, and your lineup lays an egg. So,
yeah,
that's that.
That is that, and we're on to today. One of the first lines in every hot puck so far, really, is we did good last night, 169.7, but that was yesterday. Today's today.
On to the next slate. So Pittsburgh is in Buffalo tonight. Pittsburgh minus 160. It's a 6 over/under. Any interest in this game?
Yes, absolutely. I like the Penguins second line tonight. Pat Marleau, Malkin, and Rust, both guys on the second line. And then you get Malkin and Rust that play on the first power play unit. And like you said, the Penguins are in Buffalo tonight. And by the looks of it, Pittsburgh has played awful on the road. They're 0-5 their last 5 road games, while Buffalo is 4-0 in their last 4 home games. I know it's a very, uplifting speech to get Pittsburgh 2 in your lineups, but they're in need of a win. They're in Buffalo, and Buffalo has been ice cold. So aside from Malkin, Rust, and Marleau they're on the cheap side tonight. And if you didn't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I checked, Brian Rust leads the team in goals. You wouldn't think that's the case with, Malkin and Marleau in there. And I wanted to wait till the end of the article to get into my one-offs, but I think Patrick Hornquist, he's one of my favorite one-offs tonight. He's on the third line, but he also plays on the first power play unit, and he's super cheap tonight. I think he's $3,800. That's a travesty, for a guy that gets to play with, Crosby and Malkin and on the first power play unit. So Pittsburgh 2, Hornquist with a one-off.
Pittsburgh 2, Hornquist with a one-off. We move on. The next game on the slate, Montreal at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, they're coming off a dud, which you completely called the setup game at San Jose. They're minus 190 in this one to Montreal, a 6 over/under. Are we going back to the well with Tampa Bay here?
Yeah, I think so. They're going to be what we call chalky tonight, but I'm cool with that, seeing how Montreal is in town tonight. Tampa's been one of the toughest teams on home ice, but I would still, again, exercise caution because Tampa Bay, although they've been one of the best teams in hockey for a few seasons, they've been just a tad pedestrian lately, so exercise caution. I like Tampa Bay 1 and 2, and I'll tell you what I say every video. I wouldn't really stack 1 or 2 as a whole, but I like, mix and match from each line. I think from the first line, I would go maybe Point and Palat. You can discard the salary of Kucherov as he's one of the higher priced guys tonight. And then on the second line, I would probably go Anthony Cirelli, skates on the second line, centers the second line, and he's also on the first power play unit. So you're getting a cheap center and some exposure to that first power play line.
Perfect. We're moving on. Big slate. Big slate. We'll try to blow through it as fast as we can. Boston at Florida. We talked about Florida briefly before we came on, so I know you have a little bit of interest in that. Boston is the favorite in this one, though, and the over-under in this is 5.5. Just get us started with where you're at on this.
Well, as we were chatting, before the video was going on, saying hi and exchanging pleasantries, I said I really like Florida 1 tonight, and it's an odd thing. It wouldn't be what you think it is. Boston, Florida is a game one of the games I've gone back and forth with tonight, but I like Florida 1. Not so much for what they've done or what they can do. It's more so what Boston has done and what they can do. So Florida's going to be on the ice with Boston, and like I told you before the video, they're going to have to keep pace with the Bruins, right? So it's going to be faster pace, a lot of shots, a lot of let's say odd man rushes. So I like Florida for that reason, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I think in a weird way sometimes, it's not always cut and dry as far as stats and numbers are concerned. I can't remember the last time someone has told me, well, why don't you start this team because of what the other team is going to do, if that makes sense, if you're following along. So Florida's first line, they're reasonably priced, and they should provide some major stats. I could see 10 plus points for each skater tonight, and that's pretty solid.
That's pretty solid. That's kind of what we were talking about the other night when we were talking about Vegas, right? And getting or was it we were talking about Colorado last night with their second line?
Yeah.
But anyhow, same type of floor that you think is there tonight with that. Washington is at the Rangers. The Rangers minus 123. It's a 5.5 over under. We've liked the Rangers in spots. You like the Rangers today, or are you on the other side of this?
I'm not on either one tonight. Might be a shock. Obviously, what Ovechkin can do. Tom Wilson, a low-priced guy with high upside. But what's shocking, and it's even shocking to me, and I wrote it, is I like Washington's goalie tonight, Ilya Samsonov. He's cheap, and he's my in the net, which will be out moments after this video. He is already confirmed for Washington. They're in New York tonight, and he's my what's the term I'm looking for? He's my value goalie tonight for a GPP, right? And it might be shocking or crazy to start a backup goalie on the road in New York, but that's how you can take down some major money in a tournament tonight. So the only guy that I really need tonight in a GPP is Ilya Samsonov, Washington's goalie, who has been confirmed already.
And I'll just back that up one step further with, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I want to say yesterday morning when we did this video, Colorado was minus 300 and they lost.
Yeah. And
so,
yeah.
I mean, it's hockey, it's sports, anything can happen. I mean, a backup goalie can go into Madison Square Garden and shut them down just as well as a minus 300 favorite can give up, I think it was 4 goals last night and lose. Yeah. So that's part of the process. We try to pick the best play in the best spot. So I like that play. It's a leverage play, and I like it. Carolina at Philadelphia. We talked also about Philadelphia a little bit before we came on. Philadelphia is the favorite in this one. Carolina minus 117, the over-under 5.5. Talk to me here about what you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going back to the well tonight with Philadelphia too. They were mentioned last night, and I can't remember the last time I stacked a line and all 3 guys scored. Scott Lawton, line 2, Kevin Hayes, line 2, and Travis Konecny, all guys on line 2. All 3 had goals last night. You get Travis Konecny on the power play 1 unit, and I mean that's a pretty sweet deal when you can stack a line and all 3 guys score. The only odd occurrence I saw last night was all 3 scored, but none of them had an assist, which is really, really strange, but you'll take the points for the goals. The Flyers, I will tell you, they're on the back end of a back-to-back. Sometimes that turns people off, but the Flyers are they're so damn hot right now, and I can't get away from it. All three guys, they're mid-range to lower end as far as pricing is concerned, and I just can't pass them up tonight. I'm not going to go out on a limb, but I think Philly wins 4-1, 4-2 tonight, and two of the guys in the second line score again, back-to-back goals.
4-1, 4-2. You'll have to wait and see, and make sure you check out In the Net to see if we are targeting a goalie in this game with that kind of score that you're thinking is going to happen there. New York Islanders at Ottawa. The Islanders minus 150. It's a 5.5 over/under. Anything in this one?
Absolutely. I'm going to stack New York Islanders line 1 tonight. Anders Lee, Matthew Barzal, and Jordan Eberle, all guys on the first line. You're getting Lee on the first power play, while Barzal and Eberle are on the second power play. This Islanders first line is fast becoming one of my favorites. It was Vancouver 2 and Montreal 2 for a couple weeks, but we'll push them aside, and in pops my new favorite, New York Islanders 1. The Islanders have won 8 of their last 9 games versus Ottawa. Senators are awful. They're the only other worse team than my Wings. They're 6-13, I believe, in their last 19 home games, and Islanders have dominated Ottawa recently. They're 6-0 versus them, and I don't mind telling you that the Islanders will win tonight 4-2, 4-1, and hopefully we have a repeat of what Philly 2 did last night, and every guy on the Islanders first line scores tonight. Book it. I'll eat it tomorrow if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty cool with saying that tonight.
That was that part of the reason why the cash lineup that you're producing daily is doing not just well in cash games, but is doing well in tournaments, is because of the Philadelphia play that we had in that lineup last night. It was such a leverage play on the field. I mean, you in the video yesterday, you talked about, when we talked about Washington, you talked about a stack for Washington. You talked about Ovechkin. We know what Ovechkin's capable of. It's a guy you can just kind of streamline play with his upside. But we ended up playing Philadelphia and leveraging their side of it, and Philadelphia comes away with a nice win. What was that, 5-2 game?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean,
no. I think it was 5-3 because it was on. Remember, we talked about it being on prime time, and both Washington and Philly are in the same division, and Philly has now surpassed them, and I believe they're leading their division.
Yeah, okay. So as we move on, you've got Dallas at Nashville. Nashville minus 105. This has a 5.5 over/under as well. I'm pulling up hot pucking stacks right now and looking if I see anybody from this game in there, and I haven't got that far yet, so talk to me about this one.
I do not have anybody from this game tonight. There was just so much more goodness when I was looking through the slate that I liked. I mean, Dallas is projected to win. You said the over-under's 5.5. Dallas is projected 53.5% projected to win. They have a 2.7 goal implication tonight. Nashville's the same exact number, 2.7. Can't put my finger on this slate. It's in Nashville. When you think of the Stars, you think of, firepower, with Sagan and Ben and our favorite, Corey Perry, but they really haven't done much lately. Nashville's just trudging on. They're not really doing much either. You can't go wrong with, a one-off of Yossi on defense, or even Ryan Ellis. He plays on the first power play unit. But with those two guys, they're both on the Yossi's on the first power play. Ellis is on the second power play. You can never put your finger on who's going to do what in that game. So it's better left off the article today. And that's all I have, really.
I'm excited to get to the next game because it's Edmonton at Chicago. Chicago, a couple of days ago on March 3rd, they put up 6 goals against the Ducks. Maybe they're getting things back on track. I know that you had said you think this is possibly a 5-4 type game. And this looks like you like both sides of this, and perhaps like this is a game stack. If you can fit it in.
Yeah, if you can fit it in, stack it. The over-under's 6.5. Each team is projected at like 3.3 to 3.5 goals. So you're looking at the over being busted with 7-8 goals combined. I like Chicago won tonight. They're cheaper than I thought when I started looking into this. Jonathan Taves is $6,500. Dominic Kuhlback is $5,800, and Assad is only $5,100. And I like Chicago won tonight because they played really well recently. Each team has won 3 straight. I think it's just a back and forth, crazy type game. Chicago won. Edmonton won. Edmonton won is very, very cheaply priced aside from Connor McDavid. You got Tyler Enos on the first line, Josh Archibald, two really, I've heard of Enos and Archibald, but not a lot of casual hockey fans have heard of those guys. But anytime you can get 2 cheaply priced guys playing on the line with, let's say McDavid, you're going to want in on that. Given the over-under in this one, a game stack is highly, highly recommended in this one tonight.
Speaking of game stacks, the next game we'll talk about, Toronto's Los Angeles, Toronto minus 170. And we talked about this yesterday. First of all, 2 days ago when they played at San Jose, you said this is a trap game for Toronto. They were, I think, had 1 in 7 in the last 8 games there or something like that. Yeah. And you said straight up, this is a trap game. But maybe we get some exposure to it because of the high spread, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yesterday I mentioned while watching the third period, the Sharks announcers were very clear with saying that the West Coast is not the gauntlet it used to be. So here's the second stop, I guess, for Toronto. And it's in Los Angeles. They're minus 170. It's a 6.5 over under. I do see that it looks like you like both sides of this game. Who do you like on both sides of this game? And is this another game that you would consider stacking up?
Great question. The wheels are turning as you say that, and I'll get to that. But as it stands right now, I really actually love a Kings first line stack today. Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Alex Alafalo. Anze Kopitar is reasonably priced at $7,600, but then you get Brown and Aflalo, both $4,700 for Brown, and Alex is at $5,100, and there's massive upside here for basically the same way that I was talking about the Boston game, where the Kings are going to have to keep pace with Toronto, who should be. I can't speak. I don't know any of the guys, but I can't speak to it. But I would think that they're a little bit sluggish tonight, right? So sneaking in a LA1 stack with one of the more higher, let's say a Buffalo 2 or a Philly 2 line with LA 2, that's a really solid tournament stack, And then when it comes to the Toronto side of things, I mean, it's almost like you don't want to mention them or talk about them anymore because it's like, well, Toronto one's on the slate, might as well just play him, which rightfully so. If I had to pick one guy from Toronto tonight, it'd be John Tavares again. We had him in our lineups last night. His price isn't really changing. He's staying around the 7,000, 7,400 range. He's on the second line. He's on the first power play unit with the likes of Matthews and Hyman and Nylander. And so when it comes to this game, a game stack is fantastic. If I had to give you guys a more dialed-in version of it, it would be LA's first line and Toronto's second line. And I think that would should yield some pretty good results tonight.
And I mean, like you said, everybody knows you can load up, who's playing NHL and following it, everybody knows you can load up Auston Matthews on any given night. Absolutely. He's kind of been like Ovechkin, where it's a guy who's got extreme upside, 30 to 35 fantasy point upside. He's had solid points in each of the last 4 games. So that's the easy part of it. But I like the call on maybe getting the second. Tavares, he's very active. And one thing I noticed in watching Toronto is they shift a lot.
Yes.
So we'll move on. Go ahead.
No, and I like to piggyback what you said yesterday, he's on the second line and he's playing on the first power play unit. So there's a chance that he stays on the ice for longer period of times, just, from a puck bounce off the boards. You don't know, So just having a guy like that in your lineup for $7,300 with 30, high 20s, mid 30 point upside it's huge.
Absolutely. Moving on, we've got the last game of the night, which is the Minnesota's at San Jose. We've talked about this place. I'm very curious to see what you've got. San Jose's got a very hot skater right now. Minnesota is minus 130. It's a 5.5 over under. I know you do like Minnesota. I'm going to let you talk about that, and then I'll ask you about what you think about these Sharks tonight.
Sure. I really do. It's the last game of the slate, but it was the first game that I wrote about when I was constructing my the article today. I really like Minnesota 2 tonight. Super cheap play. Parise, line 2, Joel Eriksson, line 2, and Luka Kunin on the second line. The Wild are 5-0 in their last 5 games, and they're 8-2 their last 10 road games. I feel Minnesota, take it from me, if my opinion matters at all, I do think Minnesota can be trusted tonight. In an odd way, I have talked about when teams have gone to San Jose or even Anaheim for that matter on the West Coast and getting blanked, not shut out blanked, but just like not playing well and not living up to the potential of what we thought they could do. So San Jose, as you said, they've won 5 straight, but that streak ends tonight. Minnesota stops them. Minnesota wins 3-2, 4-2 tonight. And I think Minnesota, their second line, plays a big role in that one tonight. And I actually love Alex Stalock tonight, Minnesota's goalie. He's been confirmed. He's in the article, which will be published shortly, and he makes for a really solid tournament play tonight.
Evander Kane, one of the hottest players in the NHL in the last 5 games. Super hot, right? 6,700. This is I haven't done this yet. Don't take my word for it. I'm not the NHL expert, but I want to get on the lock of the night, and I'm going to say that I'm all in on Evander Kane tonight. For me, I think that if you're going to be a good DFS player and you're going to do what we do every day, obviously not everybody can do the research that we do, and that's the beauty of what we offer with the site. But part of the research, if you're going to do this seriously, is watching games. So there's so much information you get by watching games and listening to what the local market announcers are playing. So having, the NBA pass or the NHL, whatever they call that, the ice, I have got that one too. But having those so you can listen to what local announcers say. There was a point in time where something on the local news happened, and I can't recall what it was, but something happened with San Jose, and they kind of rallied around a sick kid, and it was right before they went on their road trip. And then they've come back after this 4-game road trip, and Evander Kane's been hot. I mean, the Sharks team has been hot. And the announcers have said this is the most – they said that in the game the other night, this is the most together they've been as a team the entire year. So I'm taking Kane. I'm going to ride the hot streak. I think San Jose can make this game competitive. It's a tough place to play. Maybe it's a little bit of a homer call. You can call me out for that, but I'm not going to go off the video without mentioning my guy, Evander Kane.
And that's fine, because what I like most about what you said is you used my all-in thing, which, if you didn't know, it's trademarked by now, so I'll be expecting my payment in the mail anytime now. But
the royalty check is in the mail.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah. I like to play Kane. He's on the first power play unit. He's on the first line. He's not as expensive as some of these top-notch guys like Auston Matthews or Connor McDavid. Those guys are in the the $9,000 range. So I like to play. I appreciate what you said, and I respect what you said. Run it.
I would say there's another guy in this game that I like too, which we've talked about this game already. You talked about the Minnesota side of things, but I like the stack of Kevin Fiala and Evander Kane if you're trying to get a 1-2 late night hammer. I just like that stack together a lot for tournaments, especially with the way the slate plays out. There's only 2 games at 10:30 Eastern. The rest of the slate kicks off before 8:30 Eastern. And anytime you've got I always say an hour to an hour and a half, but in this case, it's a 2-hour gap between the late games and the majority of the games that are on the slate. the majority of ownership is going to be in games 1 through 8. There's not going to be a ton of ownership in games 9 and 10. And getting a 2-man stack, if you beginning of your line does what it's supposed to do with your first 7 guys, and you've got 2 guys that can go bonkers as one-off plays in the late night, it could propel you to the top of a leaderboard. So
absolutely,
I like that 1-2 stack, and that's kind of why I'm bringing it up. Is I like that those 2 guys as a stack tonight to get you some late night exposure. So that's really where we're at with this video.
Yes.
For a more in-depth analysis, make sure you check out both the articles that are up for NHL today and every single day, which is Hot Pucking Stacks, breaking down the top stacks of the day recommended by yours truly, Chris Robin, a.k.a. the Detroit Beastie. And the new article that's been out for about, I think today's the 6th day of it.
Yes.
It's in the net, which gives you a cash game goalie, a pay-up goalie, a mid-tier goalie, and a value play goalie for your tournament lineups. Make sure that you check that out as well. All the tools you need to be successful and beat the pros on a day in and day out basis. Check us out at dfscheatsheet.com. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the NHL Morning Skate. Until then, be cool, keep it cashing. Peace out.